All right, everybody, welcome back to Matt Money. Good morning. Today we're going to be talking about Pressure Biosciences, and first and foremost, they just secured a cosmeceutical partnership with their UST platform, specifically for Dr. Jimmy's Skin Science. It's a 20-year leader of over $500 million of sales on QVC. Now, the partnership is going to be targeting a nano-emulsion-driven product and one of Dr. Denise's proprietary skin products that is supposed to be going onto the market in the near future. Now, for those of you guys that don't know much about Pressure Biosciences, feel free to look them up on their website or on the OTC markets at PBIO. They're a leader in the development and sale of broadly enabling pressure-based instruments, specifically for research and development. Now, they are recently branching out to different things such as worldwide cosmetics, nutraceuticals, biotherapeutics, food and beverage industry, amongst other things, which I'll be going through in the presentation today. So this is just a stepping stone for them into the cosmeceutical world, which is newer to them based off the fact that they've mostly been doing R&D. So I'm going to hop into the investor presentation now, give you guys a little bit of a rundown of what their UST platform is and why it's so proprietary. And we'll talk a little bit more about it in the computer. Cheers. All right, so hopping into the presentation here, you can see the start off here is going to be pretty tech heavy. So for you science geeks, this one might be pretty cool for you, but like I said, check out Pressure Biosciences on OTC markets at PBIO. This is from a growth conference that they had done not too long ago, early July, so this is rather recent. But you can kind of see what they're getting after and what they're targeting, right? And this might make sense, but this might not make a lot of sense now, but when we walk through it, you might understand a little bit more. So they're talking about the different pressure that you can kind of see throughout the world. Car tires, 30 PSI, vices, 500. Mariana Trench or below all that water, 16,500. What they're talking about is 20,000 PSI plus, which has to be man-made, right? It's very difficult to kind of get to 20,000 PSI plus unless you are kind of man-making that. So they have two sort of areas where they do this. They have multiple different products. They have the PCT BaroCycler, which gets you to over 45,000 plus, which they have over 350 worldwide. And then they're coming out with this Ultra Shear Technology in the fall of 2022, where they basically combine ultra high pressure, 45,000 to 60,000 PSI, to help create nano-emulsions. And we'll talk a little bit about why those nano-emulsions are important. So I think with this Ultra Shear Technology is where they're taking and running with it. A lot of these in the past, the PCT and the BaroFold technology were mostly used in R&D, but what they're kind of seeing now is this ability to take the Ultra Shear Technology and create emulsions, nano-emulsions more specifically, and really get after it into a bunch of different applications that you could see. But what I do want to highlight is the 30 total patents that this company has overall, and 7 being specifically for this new UST technology. So you can see a lot of on here. You would anticipate a lot of R&D associated with these things, a lot of pharmaceuticals, medicines, across a bunch of different universities as well as companies. You have Roche, you have Gilead, you have Waters, Merck, so John Hopkins, Harvard. So you have a lot of these, Janssen, which is part of J&J, a lot of these being in the pharmaceutical industry, but you can kind of see where they've kind of come to full circle where they're trying to get to the biopharma, agriculture, nutraceutical, cosmetics, and really expand the repertoire. So really, what's the problem, right? So most emulsions are macro and micro. So think about when you have a bottle of vinaigrette dressing and you shake it up and you have the oil and water really separate. That's what we're talking about. So how do you get it to stay in sync with each other and basically be soluble within each other to be able to not have the separation of oil and vinaigrette and having to kind of like mix them together consistently? How can you basically get them entrenched in each other and emulsified into each other and soluble within each other so that way you don't have to consistently shake it up, right? Even after it's been emulsified within each other, water soluble within each other, it could be stable over the course of not just a couple seconds like you see in a bottle of vinaigrette, but over the course of 6 months, a year. That's where the nano-emulsions come in. That's where the UST technology comes in. So widely recognized to exhibit significant improvements over macroemulsions or microemulsions that you see, kind of like the vinaigrette example I just gave. So highly water soluble, a lot of bioavailability, so rapid and complete absorption, which is going to be useful in the pharmaceutical realm. You can create translucent materials rather than having two separate sort of products. You can have one continuous product where it is basically in solution of the other, and long-term stability. So basically the only ways that we have to do that now, ultrasonic high-frequency sound waves, which creates hotspots, poor reproducibility, cavitation erosion of sonic source, etc. Can't reach nano, can't scale, has inferior quality. Then you have pressure homogenizers, which is low, high pressure limits. Product enters a pump, CIP issues, valves often clog, expensive to scale. Real nano results in very low output. Then you have vendors that try to offer mystery emulsifier cocktails, but aren't effective in nanoemulsions and can't be made with one recipe. So then you get to the UST platform technology, basically putting these things through 45,000 psi to 60,000 psi of ultra high pressure, and gives you intense shear at controlled pressures. So the UST produces highly stable water soluble in oil and water nanoemulsions. So imagine not having to shake up that vinaigrette bottle. It's all one solid dressing and you still get everything that you need. You can kind of create the droplet size for whatever you want, depending on how many trials you run it through or how many cycles you run it through. And they have 7 issued patents associated with this. But the hope is to optimize sensory profiles, whether that's transparency, texture, smell, taste, and help extend shelf life as well, whether that's room temperature and is safe for longer, and destroy pathogens and spoilage agents in it as well. So this is talking specifically about high pressure homogenizers and microfluidizers, and really you just kind of go through this little nozzle. They often clog. Then they have the ultra shear technology, which really puts it through a very small hole, as you kind of can see, and you can control the dynamic force with this ball that allows you to basically change the orifice or the size at which you're kind of spraying out of this nozzle, kind of creating those nanoemulsions and the shear stress that you need to be able to get these nanoemulsions to basically make one soluble in the other. So while I mentioned earlier that this company, or Pressure Biosciences, was mostly focusing on R&D, they are now starting to scale up and focus on manufacturing as well. So this can have a whole multitude of different applications where they're starting to actually start to see some of these customers, but they're going for pharmaceuticals, vaccines, which is mostly just adjuvants and liposomes, cosmetic skincare, which we just announced, had that big announcement and partnership announced this morning, the eco-friendly agricultures, health and wellness products, nanotechnologies and advanced materials, lubricants, coatings, food and beverage as well. So this is a lot of graphics, so I'll break it down. It's basically a test with prednisone nanoemulsions where you run it through this UST cycle. You run it through that nozzle with the orifice so you can control the pressure, and you get basically the diameter of the oil droplet size of the prednisone within down significantly. So you start off with basically one cycle that's up around 200 nanometers, and you're able to get it down to the 40 to 50 nanometer range after a multitude of cycles. Then you can also see the clarity. So initially, you're not going to have a lot of transparency or translucency of the original product through just one cycle. But as you put it through, you'll be able to have the prednisone completely water soluble within because it's been so nano-emulsified that the small particles can be dissolved within the water. And then the more important piece is you can kind of see the diameter initially after testing of the prednisone, which is in this darker gray. But after you let it sit for 6 months, you can see the diameter of that after time, and it's basically staying within solution as well as keeping approximately the same size. This is within 2.5% over the course of 6 months. You can see with a different product, the prednisone /GSO, it's about the same, you do see a slightly higher increase in the size, but still massively emulsified and being able to be stored over time. This is a cosmeceutical retinol nanoemulsion here. It's the similar sort of result, starting with one cycle being about 170 nanometers for the diameter, and the clarity also going up over time as you go through multitude of cycles. You can see once you get to about 10 cycles, you get to about 54 nanometers. Now, the stability also being the same. After one cycle, you could see 168 nanometers. This is that initial dot that you see here on the upper left. And after about 16 months or so, that grows to about 232. Now, once you run it through 10 cycles, you can see it goes down to this 54 nanometers here, and it stays, actually decreases slightly and goes to 47. So you see the water solubility of this nanoemulsion being used. So obviously what this is saying is the oil droplet size is a function of how many times you have the UST cycles to a point, reaching a minimum particle size of 54 nanometers. And the increase in clarification was obviously respective of how many UST cycles you had it go to as well, to the point where you got about 78% transparency through it. So you'll be able to see it really well. And this has a multitude of different shows of that, but I thought this one was really cool. The application of nutraceuticals, which is krill oil, which is a huge antioxidant, and so has omega-3 fatty acids, and one of the most powerful antioxidants known to science. So you see the same results repeated over time, and obviously the transparency gets better with the amount of cycles, as well as the droplet size getting better as well. And you can see over time it's staying in solution comparatively to where it was initially. So pretty cool to be able to see how they're able to continue to stabilize these nanoemulsions compared to, say, the oil and vinegar sort of example I used earlier, where they immediately come out of solution. So here's another real life example as well, not just graphics, but a conventional emulsion that you'll see: 10% oil and deionized water, 9% polysorbate, 80, which is an emulsifier, and then 20 passes through 40,000 kpsi. So this is what you're seeing here on the left. So you have poor absorption, bioavailability, stability. You can see it's very, very opaque. You can't see through it. As you can see, the laser shining through. Unable to see the laser even get, a little bit into the bottle. It's very opaque. But using the UST nanoemulsion sort of way, this is 6 runs through at 40,000 psi, resulting in a suspension of 50 nanometer droplets, which means better absorption, bioavailability, better stability. And so what they have here is the nanoemulsion after 730 days. You can see, yes, it slightly has changed color, but still completely emulsified, still translucent, have the ability to read the data behind this white card here. So this is after 2 years. You still have the ability for these nanoemulsions to be in solution. And this is showing a similar process when you dial in desired droplet size and clarity. This is the ultra shear technology, where you kind of have 2 layers of a product on top of each other. This is the oil and vinegar sort of the discussion that we were kind of having. And then the emulsification, nano-emulsification happening through multitude of different cycles, going from 1 cycle all the way to 6. You can see the droplet size change over time, and also the ability to see through over time, where you're not able to see through any. And say pre-AST, 1 cycle, 2 cycles, you're starting to see through at 3 cycles, to the point where you are actually able to read through what's on the card behind in after 6. So on top of the partnership, which I announced this morning, there's also a few other things in recent news that I want to run through as well to show the commercialization of these products rather than specifically for R&D. And then I'd love to hear your comments down in the comment section down below. So in early January, they had the UST commercialization achieves key milestone at Ohio State. They had some decent revenue reported, revenue up 64% year over year. The early access program for the UST nanoemulsion production was announced, in April. Manufactured agreement under EAP executed for Safer Medical of Montana. Then you had the UST position for an enabling role in global $41 billion plant protein beverage market, which is by $41 billion by 2027. And then they contracted production launch of the first ever UST nano-emulsified CBD product for aerosol spray and oral use, which is pretty cool. I skipped over that slide, but this goes into a little bit more detail about it. So the founder and CEO of SMM, Captain George Ackerson, who served 2 terms of duty as a helicopter pilot in Vietnam, is distributing a UST processed nano-emulsified CBD product for oral use via aerosol spray. So in Q2 of 2022, the formulation was completed, and the first pilot production run was better than expected results. With Q3, so ongoing right now, a go-to-market through their existing distribution channels, their website, the veterans group, and other nurses. Through this quarter and next, retail sales will begin, where they're doing a first lot of 40,000 vials, with the goal to reach about 500,000 vials within the next 24 months. So the price estimate for that will be $63 per vial. The first 12 months target revenue will be about $3 million, and then Pressure Biosciences revenue split will be approximately $1 million from that. The thought process is this SMM transaction could be the first of many, and this was obviously created back in July, as we just announced the partnership this morning with the Skin Care organization. So I appreciate you guys stopping by the channel, checking out Pressure Biosciences on the OTC markets at PBIO. Curious what you think in the comment section down below. I thought it was pretty cool. I nerded out a little bit because I'm a sciencey type of guy. I'm an engineer by background, so you guys know that. But really interesting stuff. I mean, I deal with oil and water all the time, so I know that they separate out pretty easily. And we talk about emulsions on the topsides facilities all the time. But to see the ability to shear something so much that you create these nano emulsions and to be able to stay in solution is pretty cool to me. So wanted to share that with you guys. Of course, this is sponsored, so do take everything with a grain of salt, and also be sure to do your own research with respect to everything. But now this video is sponsored, so please do your own research and ensure that you do consult a financial advisor. But I did want to share this opportunity with you guys for OTC PBIO. Be sure to leave your comments down in the comment section down below, and I'll be looking forward to seeing you guys on the next one. Cheers.